The morning Kim Hana stepped outside her laboratory in Seoul, she knew something was terribly wrong. The air felt thin, almost empty, like breathing through wet cloth. She pulled out her portable oxygen meter and watched the numbers drop before her eyes. 20%, 19.8, 19.5. Earth was losing its breath. 3 massive ships hung in the sky above the city, their dark metal hulls blocking out the sun. They had appeared without warning just 2 weeks ago, and since then the air had been getting thinner every day. The ships made no sound, sent no messages. They simply hovered there, stealing humanity's most basic need. Hana ran back into her building, her lungs already struggling with the thin air. Inside, her assistant Park Jin was staring at his computer screen, his face pale with shock. "The readings are getting worse," he said, his voice shaking. "Oxygen levels are dropping everywhere, not just here in Seoul, but across the entire planet. The colonies too." Hana looked at the data streaming across the monitors. Mars colony had gone silent 3 hours ago when their oxygen dropped below 10%. The mining station on Europa was evacuating its entire population. Even the underwater cities were reporting problems as the ocean's oxygen levels fell. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "How can they steal oxygen from an entire planet?" The answer came that afternoon when the aliens finally spoke. Admiral Lee Dong was in his office at Seoul Military Command when every screen in the building suddenly displayed the same image. A tall, gray creature with 4 arms and silver eyes stared out at them. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through empty tunnels. "People of Earth," the alien said, "we are the Sacred Collective. We have observed your species for many cycles, and we find you lacking. You waste the sacred breath. You pollute the holy air. You are unworthy stewards of the life-giving element." Dong felt his hands clench into fists as the creature continued. "We have come to reclaim what you have misused. Your oxygen will be redistributed to species who truly understand its value. You have 7 of your days to evacuate your worlds. After that, we will complete the harvest." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. "Captain," Choi Min spoke first. 7 days? They're giving us 7 days to abandon our entire civilization?" "They're not giving us anything," Dong replied, his voice hard as stone. "They're stealing our air and expecting us to die quietly." Reports flooded in from across human space. The alien ships weren't just taking Earth's oxygen. They had appeared at every human colony, every space station, every outpost. 12 worlds, millions of people, all gasping for breath while the Sacred Collective calmly explained why humanity deserved to suffocate. In the hospitals of Seoul, Dr. Yu Su watched helplessly as her patients struggled to breathe. The elderly were dying first, their tired lungs unable to process the thinning air. Children sat in oxygen tents, their parents begging for more supplies that simply didn't exist. "We need to evacuate the city," she told the emergency council. "People are already passing out in the streets. If the oxygen keeps dropping at this rate, we'll start losing thousands of people every hour." But where could they go? The evacuation ships could only hold a fraction of Earth's population, and every other human world was facing the same crisis. Park Jin worked desperately in the underground laboratories, trying to build emergency oxygen generators from whatever materials he could find. Around him, other scientists and engineers pushed themselves to exhaustion, knowing that every hour they saved might keep someone alive. "The portable generators can support maybe 50 people each," he reported to Admiral Dong. "We're building them as fast as we can, but it's not enough. Not even close." Above ground, the city of Seoul had become a ghost town. People moved slowly through the streets, wearing emergency breathing masks that would only last a few more days. Schools had closed. Businesses had shut down. The only sounds were the hum of emergency oxygen pumps and the quiet sobbing of parents who couldn't promise their children another tomorrow. Kim Hana stood on the roof of her building, looking up at the alien ships that hung motionless in the sky. The creatures inside those vessels were watching humanity die, and they felt nothing but satisfaction at a job well done. They think we'll just lie down and die, she said to Admiral Dong over her radio. They think we'll accept this because they're stronger than us. Dong's voice crackled back through the thin air. What they don't understand is that humans get more dangerous when we're desperate. They want to see what happens when we can't breathe. They're about to find out. In the deep bunkers beneath Seoul, emergency meetings ran through the night. Military leaders, scientists, and engineers worked together on plans that seemed impossible. If humanity was going to survive, they would need to do something the aliens never expected. They would need to fight back. As oxygen levels dropped to 15% and the first mass casualties began, humanity took its deepest breath and prepared for war. 6 months after the first alien ship appeared over Seoul, Kim Hana climbed out of the abandoned subway tunnel that had become her new laboratory. Her face was thin from breathing recycled air, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. Around her, the underground city hummed with desperate activity. The subway stations of Seoul had been transformed into humanity's last hope, where commuters once waited for trains, engineers now built weapons of war. The old ticket booths housed computer terminals tracking oxygen levels across the dying planet. The platform where children once played now held the skeleton of humanity's first warship. Dr. Kim, the atmospheric processors are ready for testing, called Park Jin from across the converted platform. He looked older now, his hair gray from months of 18-hour workdays in thin air. But his hands were steady as he adjusted the massive machine that could turn dead air into breathable atmosphere. Hana walked over to examine their creation. The processor was ugly, built from car parts and air conditioning units salvaged from abandoned buildings. But it worked. In testing, one unit could keep 800 people breathing for 2 full years. "How many can we build?" she asked. 20 units, replied Chief Engineer Yu Su, who had left her hospital job to join the underground resistance. Each one small enough to fit inside a warship, powerful enough to sustain a full crew in deep space. Admiral Lee Dong emerged from the command center that had once been a subway maintenance room. His uniform was patched and dirty, but he stood straight as he studied the blueprints covering every available wall. The plan showed something the aliens had never seen before, a human dreadnought built for war in the vacuum of space. The first ship was taking shape in the abandoned Lotta Tower, its floors gutted and converted into a vertical shipyard. Workers had stripped steel from collapsed buildings, wiring from dead factories, and engines from grounded aircraft. Everything useful from Seoul's dying surface had been dragged underground and hammered into weapons. "Show me the vengeance," Dong ordered. They took the old subway tunnel to the tower's base, where humanity's prototype dreadnought sat in the building's hollow center. It was not a beautiful ship. The hull was made from apartment building walls welded together. The engines came from mining equipment. The weapons were industrial lasers meant for cutting metal, now modified to cut through alien ships. Captain Choi Min stood beside the ugly vessel, running her hands along its rough armor plating. She had volunteered to captain humanity's first warship, knowing she might never return to Earth's surface. "It's not pretty," she said to Admiral Dong, "but it will fight. Every system has 3 backups. If they damage one part, we keep fighting. If they damage 2 parts, we keep fighting. They'll have to destroy us completely to stop us." The ship's crew was already training in the converted subway cars. Former bus drivers learned to operate weapon systems. Teachers became engineers. Shop owners turned into soldiers. They all understood that this might be humanity's only chance. Nam Ki, a restaurant owner who had become the ship's gunner, practiced on simulators built from old video game machines. "The aliens think we're weak because we need air to breathe," he said while targeting practice enemies. "Wait until they see what we can do when we're angry." In the depths of the underground city, Dr. Kim Hana worked on the most important part of their plan. The atmospheric processors were not just for keeping crews alive. They were also weapons. If the aliens wanted to steal humanity's air, humans could steal it right back. "Each processor can extract oxygen from any source," she explained to the engineering team. "Dead planets, asteroid ice, even the air inside enemy ships, we won't just survive in space. We'll make space livable. Park Jin had spent months modifying the processors to work as both life support and offensive weapons. If we get close enough to an alien ship, we can actually suck the air out of their vessels, he said with grim satisfaction. Let them see how it feels to suffocate. The Luna shipyards, hidden on the far side of the moon, worked around the clock building more dreadnoughts. Each ship was different, built from whatever materials the construction crews could find. Some used steel from demolished cities. Others incorporated titanium from spacecraft graveyards. All of them carried the same message. Humanity would not die quietly. Yusu supervised the construction of the fleet's flagship, a massive vessel they called the Iron Lung. 24 ships total, she reported to Admiral Dong. Each one designed to operate in complete vacuum. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a small moon. As the fleet neared completion, the aliens continued their slow harvest of Earth's atmosphere. Oxygen levels had dropped to 12%. People could only survive outside for short periods. But in the underground cities, humanity's rage had been forged into something deadly. They wanted to take our air, Captain Choi Min said as she watched the Vengeance's final systems come online. Now let's see how they like breathing vacuum. The ships were ready. The crews were trained. And somewhere above them, the aliens waited, unaware that the dying species below had spent 6 months building their own extinction. The day humanity struck back began with 24 metal giants rising from hidden shipyards across the solar system. Admiral Li Dong stood on the bridge of his flagship Iron Lung, watching Earth shrink in the view screen behind them. The planet looked sick now, wrapped in gray clouds where blue skies used to shine. The oxygen was so thin that the white clouds had turned the color of ash. All ships report ready for combat, announced Captain Choi Min from her dreadnought Breathless. Her voice carried across the fleet communication system to every vessel in their formation. Dong looked around his bridge crew. These were not professional soldiers. His navigation officer had been a taxi driver. His weapons specialist had run a flower shop. His chief engineer had fixed air conditioners before the aliens came, but they all shared the same burning determination to make the invaders pay. Fleet status report, Dong ordered. Vengeance standing by, called Park Jin from the prototype dreadnought. His ship was the ugliest in the fleet, built from subway, parts and apartment buildings, but it had been tested in battle simulations more than any other vessel. Dead air ready for combat, reported Nam Ki, the former restaurant owner who now commanded a ship capable of destroying cities. His crew was made up entirely of people who had lost family members to the oxygen theft. One by one, the other ships checked in. Suffocation's end, built in the ruins of Tokyo. Final gasp, assembled in the abandoned factories of Detroit. Oxygen's wrath, forged in the underground caverns of Sydney. Each vessel carried a name that reminded everyone why they were here. Dr. Kim Hana worked at her science station, monitoring the alien communication frequencies. The Sacred Collective had noticed humanity's fleet movement, but their transmissions showed no concern. They're calling us dying insects in metal shells, she translated from the alien language. They think we're trying to escape to find another world to poison. Chief Engineer Yu Su smiled grimly from her position at the engineering console. She had left her medical career to build weapons of war, and now she was about to see if her designs could kill the creatures who had murdered her patients. Let them think we're running away, she said. They're about to learn what happens when you corner a desperate animal. The fleet moved through space in perfect formation. Each dreadnought was equipped with atmospheric processors that could create breathable air from nothing. Each ship carried enough supplies to fight for years without returning home. Each vessel was crewed by volunteers who understood they might never see Earth again. Captain Choi Min reviewed her crew assignments one final time. Her communications officer had been a school teacher. Her gunner had sold books for a living. Her pilot had driven delivery trucks through Seoul's busy streets. None of them had military training, but all of them had watched their world slowly suffocate. Remember your training, she announced over the ship's intercom. The aliens have better technology, but they've never faced an enemy that fights back. They don't understand what humans can do when we have nothing left to lose. The fleet's target was the Sacred Collective's main processing station. a massive structure that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. The alien facility was the size of a small moon, bristling with defensive weapons and surrounded by a fleet of extraction vessels that had been stealing humanity's air for 8 long months. "Enemy contact in 12 hours, reported the tactical officer aboard Iron Lung. "Alien fleet consists of 47 vessels, including 12 atmospheric extraction ships." Admiral Dong studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. The aliens had arranged their ships in a defensive pattern around their processing station, confident that no attack could threaten their superior technology. "They outnumber us 2 to 1, observed Dr. Kim Hana, "and their ships are larger than ours." "Size doesn't matter when you're fighting for survival," Dong replied. "Their ships are built for harvesting air. Ours are built for war." Park Jin's voice crackled over the communication system from the Vengeance. "All weapon systems tested and ready. Atmospheric processors operating at full capacity. If they want to see what happens when humans can't breathe, we're ready to show them." The Dreadnought crews made their final preparations as they approached the alien fleet. Emergency oxygen masks were checked and rechecked. Weapon systems were powered up and tested. Damage control teams reviewed their procedures for fighting in the vacuum of space. Nam Ki addressed his crew over the Dead Air's intercom system. 8 months ago, these creatures came to our world and started stealing our air. They gave us no warning, no chance to negotiate. They just decided we didn't deserve to breathe." His voice hardened. "Today, we're going to return the favor." As the two fleets moved toward each other through the cold darkness of space, the aliens sent one final transmission to the approaching human ships. "Turn back, dying species," the message said in perfect Korean. "Your metal shells cannot protect you from the sacred judgment. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction swift." Admiral Dong opened a channel to reply, his words carrying, "To every human ship and every alien vessel in the area. You took our air without asking. You called us unworthy of breath. You tried to make us die quietly." He paused, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on his screens. "Now you get to see what humanity does when you threaten our children." The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The first shot of humanity's revenge came from Park Jin's Dreadnought Vengeance, a plasma blast that tore through the alien fleet's front line like fire through paper. "All ships engage at will," Admiral Lee Dong commanded from the bridge of Iron Lung, watching as his 24 dreadnoughts crashed into the sacred collective's formation like angry wolves attacking sheep. The aliens had never faced a real fight before. For thousands of years, they had taken what they wanted from weaker species who couldn't resist. Now they watched in shock as humanity's ugly, patched-together warships tore their sleek vessels apart with brutal efficiency. Captain Choi Min guided her dreadnought breathless straight toward the aliens' main atmospheric processing station, her weapons blazing. The massive facility was the size of a city, filled with stolen oxygen from a dozen human worlds. As her ship's guns punched holes in the station's hull, billions of tons of Earth's air began venting into space. "This is for every child who couldn't breathe," she shouted over the communication system, watching frozen oxygen crystals sparkle in the starlight as they escaped from the alien facility. The Sacred Collective's ships tried to form defensive positions, but they had never trained for real combat. Their vessels were built for harvesting atmospheres, not for war. When Nam Ki's Dreadnought Dead Air rammed straight through an alien extraction ship, splitting it in half with its reinforced hull, the enemy formation began to panic. "They're using their ships as weapons!" screamed the alien communications that Dr. Kim Hana intercepted from her station aboard Iron Lung. "These creatures have no respect for life." But the aliens understood nothing about human warfare. Chief Engineer Yu Su had spent months designing their ships to keep fighting even when badly damaged. When her dreadnought Oxygen's Wrath lost its main engines to alien fire, she simply kept shooting while drifting through space, her backup systems, maintaining life support and weapons power. The turning point came when Park Jin made a decision that horrified the Sacred Collective. His ship Vengeance had taken heavy damage, with hull breaches threatening to kill his entire crew. Instead of retreating, he deliberately opened his ship's atmospheric processors to space. "All hands, emergency breathing gear," he commanded as his ship's precious air began venting into the vacuum. But this wasn't an accident or a mistake. The escaping atmosphere created a massive explosion of frozen oxygen that destroyed 3 alien ships caught in the blast. "They're using their sacred breath as ammunition," the alien commander broadcast in terror. "These monsters are weaponizing the holy air itself." The sight of humans deliberately venting their own life support to kill enemies broke the sacred collective's will to fight. These creatures worshipped oxygen as a sacred element, and they couldn't understand a species that would use their own air as an explosive weapon. Admiral Dong pressed the attack, coordinating his fleet's movements with the cold precision of a surgeon. His dreadnoughts worked in pairs, one ship drawing enemy fire while its partner attacked from an unexpected angle. The aliens tried to retreat, but humanity's ships were faster and more maneuverable than the massive atmospheric processors. "Target their oxygen storage tanks," Dong ordered. "Show them what it feels like to watch their air disappear." Captain Choi Min led the assault on the aliens' sacred repositories, using coordinated plasma strikes to breach the enormous tanks that held stolen atmosphere from human colonies. As each tank exploded, sending clouds of frozen air into space, she broadcast on all frequencies. "Every breath you stole from our children is going back where it belongs," she announced, watching another storage facility rupture and die. "This is what you took from us." Nam Ki discovered that the aliens' religious beliefs made them weak in battle. When his gunner accidentally damaged one of their own oxygen tanks, the alien crew abandoned their weapons to try saving their precious air. Nam Kai's ship destroyed them while they were distracted with their repairs. "They care more about their gas than their lives," he reported to the fleet. "Use that against them." The final blow came when Dr. Kim Hana figured out how to turn the aliens' atmospheric extraction equipment against them. Working with Chief Engineer Yu Su, she modified Iron Lung's processors to reverse the extraction process. "Instead of taking air from planets," she explained over the ship's intercom, "we're going to take it from their ships." The Iron Lung moved close to the alien command vessel, its modified processors creating a powerful suction that began pulling atmosphere out of the enemy ship through their own air vents. The Sacred Collective's crew began suffocating in their own command center, as their precious oxygen was stolen by the very species they had tried to exterminate. "Now you know how it feels," Admiral Dong transmitted to the dying alien commander. "This is what you did to our worlds." As the last alien extraction ship exploded in brilliant silence, the battle ended with humanity's complete victory. The Sacred Collective's surviving vessels fled into deep space, carrying news that would spread across the galaxy. Earth's children were not easy prey. Park Jin's damaged ship drifted among the debris, his crew breathing recycled air from emergency supplies. But they were alive and the aliens were running. "Admiral," he called over the communication system, "the enemy fleet is retreating. All human ships report victory." Dong looked at the wreckage floating around them, pieces of alien technology mixed with frozen oxygen that had once belonged to human worlds. "Send a message to any aliens still listening," he ordered. "Tell them that humanity remembers. And if they ever threaten our air again, we'll come for theirs." 5 years after the last human child had gasped for breath in Seoul's dying streets, Admiral Lee Dong walked through the gardens of New Earth, breathing air so pure it made his chest feel light with joy. The oxygen readings on his portable scanner showed 22%, higher than Earth had enjoyed in over a century. Around him, children ran and played without breathing masks, their laughter echoing through parks that had been barren wasteland just 3 years ago. The Treaty of Sacred. Breath had ended the war, but it had begun something far greater. The 24 dreadnoughts that had once carried humanity's desperate revenge now served as the foundation of the atmospheric guard, massive ships that patrolled human space with their life-giving processors converting dead worlds into garden paradises. "Admiral, we have a status report from the frontier," announced Captain Choi Min as she approached through the flowering trees. Her ship Breathless now served as a mobile terraforming station, its atmospheric processors working day and night to create breathable worlds for humanity's expanding population. Dong smiled as he watched a group of children chase butterflies through the garden. These were the first generation born after the war, kids who had never known the fear of suffocating, never worn emergency breathing masks, never watched their planet slowly die. "What's the report, Captain?" he asked. "The colony on Kepler 442b is breathing normally. Population of 50,000. All systems green. Dr. Kim Hana's atmospheric processors are working better than we ever hoped." Kim Hana had become the galaxy's leading expert on atmospheric engineering. Her processors, originally built from subway parts and car engines in Seoul's underground tunnels, were now the most advanced life support systems in known space. Every human colony carried her designs, and 3 alien species had begged to trade for the technology. "The Sacred Collective has sent another request," Choi Min continued, handing Dong a communication tablet. "They want permission to study our atmospheric restoration methods. They're calling it the miracle of manufactured air." Dong laughed as he read the alien message. The same creatures who had once called humans unworthy of breath were now begging to learn how humanity could create breathable atmosphere from nothing but ice and rock. Chief Engineer Yu Su's voice crackled over his communication device from the frontier worlds. "Admiral, we've received reports of atmospheric interference in the Centauri sector. Another species is trying to manipulate planetary air supplies. Permission to investigate?" "Granted," Dong replied immediately. The atmospheric guard had standing orders to protect any species from the kind of suffocation humanity had endured. Their dreadnoughts carried both the tools of war and the gift of breathable air to worlds that needed either. Park Jin commanded the newest addition to the fleet, a massive vessel called Eternal Breath. His ship could convert an entire dead planet into a garden world in just 5 years, using atmospheric processors 1,000 times more powerful than the original prototypes built in Seoul's subway tunnels. "New colony establishment proceeding on schedule," he reported from deep space. "We'll have 3 more breathing worlds by next year. The refugees from the Rigel system will have new homes soon." The Rigel refugees were just the latest species to seek humanity's protection. When their own atmosphere had been poisoned by industrial accidents, Earth's atmospheric guard had arrived with processing ships and emergency life support. Now those aliens worked alongside human crews, grateful for the chance to breathe freely. Again, Namki's ship Dead Air patrolled the outer boundaries of human space, its sensors constantly monitoring for atmospheric threats. The former restaurant owner had become one of the galaxy's most feared defenders, his reputation for protecting breathable worlds known across dozens of star systems. "All sectors clear," he reported during the weekly fleet meeting. "No unauthorized atmospheric extraction detected. The galaxy is breathing easy today." But it was the message from the Galactic Council that truly showed how much had changed. Admiral Dong read it aloud to his senior staff as they gathered in the New Earth Command Center. "The Council formally recognizes humanity's right to protect atmospheric integrity throughout the galaxy," he announced. 7 new species have requested our protection services. They're offering mining rights, territory, and technology in exchange for atmospheric guard coverage." Dr. Kim Hana looked up from her research console, where she was designing even more efficient atmospheric processors. "We went from nearly extinct to the galaxy's atmosphere protectors in just 5 years, she mused. "The aliens who tried to suffocate us created their own worst nightmare." Chief Engineer Yu Su's latest creation, a dreadnought called Last Hope, was launching from the Luna shipyards. The massive vessel carried enough atmospheric processing power to restore an entire solar system's breathable air in a single year. "The irony is perfect," she observed as they watched the ship's maiden flight. "They tried to kill us by taking our air. Now we're the only species in the galaxy that can create air from nothing." As the sun set over New Earth's restored atmosphere, Admiral Dong made his final log entry of the day. "Humanity learned to hold its breath and fight back. Now the galaxy breathes easier knowing we're watching the skies." Through his window, he could see the dreadnought Iron Lung passing overhead, its hull gleaming in the golden light of humanity's second chance. Children pointed up at the massive warship, understanding instinctively that it represented their species' promise. No one would ever threaten another's right to breathe again. The species that had nearly suffocated had become the guardians of life itself.